So welcome everybody. This is Tableau Live, where your real problems from real users are solved in real time. This is October 11th, 2023, episode number 9 that we're doing right now. And with me, I have Chris Cox. He's our founder. He's a visionary, and we like to call him our resident GGTK, which means he's a good guy to know. I'm Heather Datillo. I'll be your host today. I'm the EVP of operations here at Boulder Insight and a certified Tableau instructor, desktop instructor, and consultant. And have been doing this thing with Chris for about 9 years now. For me, Chris has been doing this for over 15. And then I also have my esteemed colleague with us, John Rosales, who is the Director of Education, a certified Tableau instructor as well, and a Tableau consultant too. And so we are here to help any of our community really be able to start to understand and learn Tableau in the best way that we can. We always say the best way to learn Tableau is to play with it, and the best way to play is with friends, and we're your TFFs, we're your Tableau friends forever, and we're here to support you with your questions. So as part of the registration process, for those of you who are joining us live, we have an opportunity for you to submit a question. So we're actually going to jump into the submitted questions and topics that we had, since we had some great questions come in already. If time permits, we'll move into some Tableau tips and tricks. One of the questions we got today is around dashboard actions as a solution to be able to do it. So we'll give you a little background on dashboard actions, just so you're kind of understanding the concepts behind it, when to use them. And then we'll open it up to additional questions. So if you're here live with us, you didn't submit a question in advance, don't worry, we want to be sure we're answering your questions. So we will move into those as quickly as possible as well, to make sure those are answered too today. So yep, and I just see we have a few more folks that are joining us. We'll just keep letting them in and jump into topics. And Tom, I'm so glad you joined when you did, because we're jumping right into submitted questions. And Tom is one of our regular attendees. And we love working with Tom. So I know you had a great question that came up, and we've worked on some ways to answer that, in addition to a question that we also received from Jessica today too. So let's jump in with no further ado. Again, for those of you who haven't submitted questions and you're joining us for the first time, please feel free to put those into the chat, and we'll get those into the queue to be answered as well too. So Chris, question 1 is going to be coming to you. This came from Tom, and from Tom B, and the data source tab was the question that he had, is how to get a third level data source working to work with an existing model, main table 1, 2, 3. So I know Tom also emailed us with a chart as well, with a diagram and things of, or I think just a screenshot of his data source tab. So I know you've been thinking through how to best answer this. So Tom, did I represent your question enough? Would you like to come off mute and share your question too, or do you want Chris to just jump right in?
Yeah, that's pretty good explanation of what I'm trying to do.
Okay, great.
All right. The only thing in your picture you sent, I couldn't see the left-hand side. So I don't know, are you talking about 3 different data sources you're trying to pull in, or is it just one of the tables you're trying to pull in twice?
So my first data source is my main data source. My second one, I'm creating a relationship between those 2. I have a third one that I can create a relationship to the second one, but not the first one.
Okay. Can you by chance show your screen? Because I don't know if I can replicate that on my own, because I don't have those things actually relate like that.
Yeah, I gotta find an example for you.
I think all you have to so let me tell you this. So the only reason to use relationships is one, if you've got like a many to many type of situation. Is that what you have? Is that the reason why you're using that?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, it actually may force you to do it that way. Relationships, you may have to join that, like one of those in instead of doing the relationship, which means it's going to multiply the number of rows. So you can still do joins. I'll just show you my screen really quick, and I'll just show you that piece. Tableau now, when you build out a new data set, it's going to actually default to I'll just pull in Superstore. Actually, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do it this way. So data, new data source. Let's just pull in. We'll go to Tableau repository data sources. Doesn't matter, whatever. All right, we'll just pull this in as this whole Excel file. So what Tom is saying is that he has multiple data sources here, so he's adding in another one. Correct, Tom?
Yep.
Okay. So what happens is when Tableau now by default, if I pull in these, it's going to create. Oops, didn't do that. Remove. So when I pull in, and I could add that one twice, right? I could do. I could add it in again, and I could add it in again. Let's just do that. We'll just add it in 3 different times. It's the same thing. So what he's saying is on the first one, and this is blue, so you'll see that the blue comes in. If I try to pull returns from the second one, it's going to automatically give me that yellow line, which tells me which one it's coming from.
Yep.
And you want the third one, you want, like, to say people, but you want that to join. Well, that actually worked off that one, but I think you're pulling in the same tab twice. So you're pulling in returns here. Well, that one actually worked. It goes to where you want it to. Why is that? Yeah, so that one actually works. I have returns in here twice. Oh, they're both orange.
All right, so remove the bottom returns.
Okay.
Move that returns to the right of people. That's what I'm trying to create. Right there.
Yeah, and so it doesn't give you you can't select the field. You can't do regions, people, and then people, I guess over here, I guess I wish you wouldn't have that. So this one doesn't have the field that I need to do that.
Correct. So my first two fields work great. Just like you have orders to people, right?
Yep.
My third one on the right side, I can't connect that to orders, but I can connect it to people.
Yeah, and you want it to connect to orders, but you don't have the ability. So when you click when you click the line, you don't have the ability just to change which one it goes to.
Those two are fine. What I'm saying,
right? I'm saying for your third one. If I was to pull in people here, right? If I click this line and I say I want it to go to, you should have another group here. So this one, well, so this is where the relationships don't really give you what you want. Right, it's going to make you drag it over here.
Correct.
But
it has no relationship to the orders table.
Yeah, so it's got to have it to there.
Yeah,
but I could do region people and region people 1. That's going to work.
Those two are okay. So now what I'm trying to do is when I go to the sheet and create my visualization, I'm not getting that third level data from people 1.
So okay, so you can do this, but when you click through, it doesn't show up.
Correct.
So orders, people, they're both here.
It shows up, but when I try to build my visualization from the first data source on the left to the third one on the far right, it does not show up when I pull the information from the right side.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I think I'd have to see your exact one. The other thing to try, and I would do it with a smaller data set.
Yep.
Is just do this, and if you double click on this, then you get back the old menu, and now you can do joins, right? Which gives you more to control. So now if I pull in people twice, I can tell you that I want it to come from orders, right? Versus if I get orders tab or I get people tab. So I have that option now, but that only exists inside of the join.
Okay, so my first level from orders to the first people, I just do it normally. The second one, I actually have to go to the join.
Yeah, I got to double click on it. So what you're gonna join one and you're gonna relate the other. Yeah. So typically what I do is I always start out with joins, because joins are going to make it, you're going to give you more rows. Yes. And just depending on how you're using the data, it could make it slower. It just kind of depends. I mean, typically I think relationships are slower because you're still having to cross data sources every time.
Yep.
But if you're using an extract, I mean, there's so many different nuances to when you use which. But if you can't get it to do what you're trying to do, because you do have 3 different data sources, I think I would try the join first, and then just see if you can get that to work.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay,
Got it.
fair enough. All right. Next.
Hey, John, I don't know if we want to talk about relationships or joins at all. Just to talk about the difference of where relationships take place versus joins at all. If we want to touch on that in a little bit too, we could, or now.
Yeah, actually, I was looking for that material just as they were going through that. So if we can circle back to it, I'll have something
That'll be great.
in a little bit.
Thanks
Yeah,
so much, John. Yeah, it started making me think of some of our
me
some of our
too.
intermediate course information. So maybe we'll pull that up after this next question. So that's great. All right. Great minds think alike there. All right. So Jessica B, this is Jessica's question, and it looks like she has not yet joined the call. So I know she'll get to see this on the recording, Chris, so we won't be able to get additional information on what she was hoping for, but I think we're on the right track with what we were going to do here. So the question number 2.
Something for that.
Okay, great. Question number 2 was submitted in advance by Jessica B. And what she was really asking for was, what are some tips on creating user-guided exploration dashboards? So when we're talking about user-guided, we're talking about as someone clicks on something and then they want to start to have some drill down analytics to see additional information. And so Chris has something prepared for this that will really, I think, hit home around this. And Jessica B., if you are watching this and you have additional questions that you want to ask, feel free to email us at info@boulderinsight.com with additional questions, or you can email us directly, email me directly at heather@boulderinsight.com if you want some more information. So Chris, I will hand this over to you so we can talk about this user-guided exploration dashboard. And while Chris is getting ready to share his screen, for those of you that are with us, in the chat, can you give me a 1 if you've ever tried to utilize user-guided analytics, and a 2 if you haven't. A 1 if you've tried it, a 2 if you haven't in the chat. And if you have tried it and it hasn't worked, give me a 911 in chat as well. So 1 if you tried to use user-guided analytics, 2 if you've never tried it, and a 911 if you tried it but it just didn't work. And we'll walk through. Okay, great. Seeing some great answers there, Chris, too. Looks like we have a mix on the call. Some people have tried it, a 187. I'm not sure what that one means. That's great as well. So we have a few folks that have never tried it and 1 that has. So that's great. And Tom, you'll have to tell me more about 187 if that's a call for help or not as well. So thanks, guys. Okay, Chris, I'm going to hand this over to you.
Okay. Yeah. So typically the reason for this is that if you have a lot of data, like a lot of times we build summary data like this that summarizes things and makes it pretty easy to get down into. And we're kind of even bordering on a little too much information here because I can't do anything with this map. I got to hover over everything. That's the reason why we built these charts, to tell you what's really happening, right? But if you had, let's just say we had detail that was even like a lower level. Maybe we had all of the Social Security numbers of everybody in the U.S. and we had their like BMI. And we wanted to see, okay, well, let's list those people out. Well, you can't show the entire population of the U.S. in one view. It's just going to be too much. So this would be a great spot to have like a user kind of guided analytics. And all that means is I'm not going to show this chart until they do something. So and so how this is set up is through actions. So I'll look at the actions first, and I'll show you how it works. Is if I look at the actions on this sheet, I have a couple that just do the highlight things, but then these are the ones that are important. So I have all to most. Typically when we're building dashboards, we start out with like an all to all. That makes it really easy because I can pass in anything I want. So in this situation, there's certain things I don't want to be able to click on. I don't want to be able to click on the BMI. I don't want to be able to click on just different pieces. Like I have states can be this. I have the states one here. The states can be clicked on, but the states should not go to BMI and cover. Those are the 2 ones that I'm calling out. because the clearing action is to show all. So I don't want to show all. I want to actually exclude when you clear it. Okay. So the action I have for set up for that is just I call it a population, and you'll see this one only goes from states, and it only goes to my BMI chart and to my cover chart. And then for the clear, I want to exclude all values. It's also kind of nice to and this kind of goes to a little bit of Tom's problem is I have two like a different data sets for this one. So the great thing about if you have different data sets, you can use them in the same dashboard without having to join them or to do relationships. You can literally leave them as separate data sets, as actually long as they have the same field in it that you're going to pass across. So in mine, I have state in my main data set, and I also have state in my list of all the social security numbers, which I don't really have also. I mean, this is all like mocked up data, by the way. But I'm telling it to go from the obesity data set to this population data set, passing state and then targeting state. Okay, so when I do that, so if I just click these, nothing's really going to happen to this side because that's not really where it's actually driven from. But as soon as I click on a state, then it's going to populate all. Well, now it's not all the people in the state, obviously, but these would be, if I had this data, this would be what we would show. And so the other two pieces to it, like I like to have a little bit of a text to tell you what's going on, because sometimes showing up at the dashboard and having an area that's blank doesn't make sense. So I don't know why I would have that. So what I do, like you saw me, I was passing data to both the BMI sheet and to cover. Cover is a field that looks like this. If I go to this sheet, so this sheet is literally just a cover. It is a one. So I just wrote a calculation, a really tough calculation called one. And I just have that in as a dimension, so that way I can just assign it a color. So all this sheet is just a black square, right? And then when I pass in the action, the state action on the exclude, it's going to take away all my squares, or it's going to show one, right? So that sits over top of my text field, which is here. So it's a little bit below it. So here's where I'm actually layering things. So cover. Now, if I move these up, like let's say I put that over top of the cover. Now I go back. Well, I'm going to get that behind there. I don't want that sticking out behind. You know, I want it to be hidden. So this is where when you layer things, it actually matters. So I'll move that back down under cover. So the cover goes up on top. It's just a black square, hides it. And then whenever I clear out my action, it's going to show that again. So that's typically how we like to do the guided analytics. Let me pause there and let anybody ask questions.
So Chris, this is great. I've got a question while you were doing that from Sharon L on the call. And she's saying, which I know this happens to a lot of us, I think dashboard actions are one of those things that are super powerful, one of the most powerful tools that Tableau has for dashboarding, but also can be pretty tricky to get to work when they're layered sometimes. So Sharon's question was, sometimes when I've created actions and I select to quote, show all values, it does not clear until I click a space outside the filter. So do you want to talk through that question with her? What's going on?
There's actually three different ways to clear actions. One is I can click the state, and I can click that same actually state again. That will clear it. I can click a state, and I can click anywhere in a blank area inside that same graph. And then the third one, which is not available in desktop, it's available in server, is your whole revert all button. So if you've ever published a server, you'll go to, I'll just show you one really quick. So let's just hop in here. Password problems. I've got 99 problems, and a password is actually one, apparently. So let's just take one of these guys. So I think Tableau just renamed this field in some in some later versions. Let's say I've clicked here. I don't think it's called a revert anymore, but it's called it here. So if I can have multiple actions or whatever, all these things created. And if I want, I could clear these, like I said, by clicking here and clicking there, or I can also hit that button right there. And then that's going to put you back to the first state. So those are really the three things to do. Typically we would have, I know we have it on some of these, we have a little information icon up here that would give the user those instructions to how to clear actions. And really we point them at that button. That's kind of the main thing, because that's really where it's easiest. Trying to describe to click in the blank space in a graph, that's really tough to do unless you can show them. So does that make sense?
Sharon, do you have anything to add or any?
I mean, I just
any-
wanted to make sure was that normal, because that's what I always tell them, either click in a blank space or on the column header or something, and it'll clear it all. But I will start letting them know once I publish it, they can just do the revert. Because oftentimes when I'm working on it, I'm testing and I'm like trying to show someone,
Yeah.
I started realizing, but if that's normal, at least I know it's normal.
Yeah, that's totally normal. Like no one gets that, and it becomes kind of second nature once you realize it. But that whole revert all button is just kind of a savior, especially if you've got multiple actions on the page. Like that saves so much time. You know?
Right. Yeah.
So
Okay.
And Chris, do you want me to show the Colorado Pulse poll where we do have the information on it? Or do you want to pull that up? I have it up on my screen. Okay. Yeah, just Sharon, so you can kind of see how we've integrated that into a dashboard. I think that could be helpful as well. And then I'm gonna, when we're done kind of showing this piece, Chris, I'm gonna have you pull up that dashboard action with exclude one more time. I'll walk through that a bit. So this is a public-facing dashboard that we have done with a nonprofit here in Colorado. And what we have is icons in the dashboard. So Chris took you first to the landing page, which we build really to look more like a website and an app that you can see. And there's buttons that you can click on, but then each internal button has a home button that gets you back to that index page, a question mark one, and then we also have a little hamburger menu that gives you more information. So, when Chris is that gets you to the buttons to navigate the rest of the dashboard. So this one, you'll notice, and I'll screenshot this language for you all and put it in the chat too. But this is a way to, kind of talk about how to navigate the dashboard and the information that's in there. So I'll put this screenshot right into chat as well. You are all welcome to plagiarize this and use. And Chris, I don't know if we also want to just show how we created that button and what that looks like, if that's helpful at all. We could hop into that and then in the next section here too. But that might be helpful, or now. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
sure.
just so you know, that number one calculation that Chris does, that is the first calculation we write for any client work that we're doing, for any dashboards we're building internally. We always write a number one calculation. It just becomes really helpful for a whole lot of things. So Chris is going to show you a little bit about how we've gone about creating that. You can use buttons, which are the navigation options in Tableau, but you can also use that calculation of that min, pull it onto shape, and then get to then pull it into shape and use it this way that he's doing too. So it depends on how you want it to show up in the dashboard. If you want it to show up on a click, if you want it to show up on hover or not. So
we can do that. Come on. Hit the paste button by accident. All right, so where was that? Here we go. So let's call this, this is just, so this one you make a sheet with. So let's just call this one help. And
or help out, either one.
yeah, either one. And then this is the instructions for use revert. Oh, right. So anything you'd want to have. So all this is just a sheet with a hover. That's really all it is. So now if I go back to my dashboard, I can drag that in and throw that up here. I get rid of my title. I make this fit entire view and I make it a reasonable size. So now I hover over that, I get my instructions. So that's actually one way that works great with the hover. The other way to do it, which I kind of like better, because the only thing with here is that if you move it all, you lose it. Sometimes I want to keep it up for instructions. So the other way to do it is to just put in like a text box, and then type all of my instructions, structrs, are here.
There's a little space between your in and your
Yeah.
instructions, but I kind of like that. It's got some emphasis there. So instructions, but it's up to you.
Exactly. So that's here. So I can take this one. I may make the background white. I guess I'm gonna make my text dark now. Just forgot about that part. Okay, so white background, dark text. I may even put a border on it just to make it kind of stand out a little bit. And let's make it a certain size. Come on. There we go. So ever how I want it, right? Now, once you have this guy, let's say I want it to pop up here. Okay. Then I can do this. I can say add show hide button. And now that's going to give me a little button to put up here. Then I can put anything I want in this button. So if I wanted to go and make this a image button, and I want to choose the image, then I go and grab my Tableau repository, my shapes, my sort by name, my BI shapes, and I'll make this one a, I'll make it a cookie. So there we go. So now when you click the cookie, you're going to get that. And I didn't do the other side of it, but still. So this way it would be more of a click, right? You would click the cookie. I guess I didn't do both sides. Let me do both sides. Let's make it good. So that was item hidden, item shown. So I got to choose an image for both sides. Sometimes we would do different pieces the same way they would do.
I'm getting hungry with this cookie. Is that a chocolate chip cookie? What kind
Yes,
of
it
cookie
is.
is
Matter
that?
of fact, my daughter had a project. I can't remember what she was doing. She had to make up some sort of a business plan, and of course, I used Tableau, and I put cookies on all of her bar charts, and
As you do.
stuff like you do. Yeah, that's kind of how this stuff works. But anyway, those are the two main ways, depending on how you want to do it. If you want the hover, you do it this way. If you want the pop-up box, you do it like that.
Questions from anybody? I know we went deep into, some additional riffing off the questions that came in from Sharon. I really appreciated that, but hopefully that makes sense. But I think those icons are just a way that we design most of our dashboards. There's always at least a help icon. And usually we have some kind of index page for multiple dashboards. So we usually have a home icon. It's just best practice for us as an organization, and something we'd love for you guys to be able to implement if you want to. So let me pause there, make sure there's no questions on the navigation buttons. I'm keeping an eye on chat. If not, looks like nothing just yet. Okay, great. Chris, go to the dashboard actions, if you wouldn't mind, for me, and pull up the action where you had exclude one more time. I know you did a great job of explaining that. So I just want to point out some of the pieces of a dashboard action. So to do dashboard actions, this is one of the first things that we often do as a company is we'll come in and do makeovers. Everybody loves a good makeover, whether you like HGTV, if you like, chopped kitchen and you get a basket and you got to make something out of it. We love coming in and really revisiting the viz that you've created and helping you to really think through how you can best utilize this, both from a design standpoint and a performance standpoint. So one of the biggest errors that we see people make that are new users to Tableau is really by using filters instead of dashboard actions. Okay, so when you use filters, oftentimes we'll see people come in, they will take their Excel spreadsheets, they'll make them better in Tableau, but they're still using that Excel mindset to create several filters. So thanks, Chris. So when Chris goes back, this is an original dashboard that used to come out of from Tableau out of the box as one of the examples. Yeah, it looked like this.
Couldn't stand it.
and we remade it and used it as a way to teach our class. So let's go back to the original, Chris, and just show that. When you're there, you'll notice in the top right corner, we have our regions. And so it's easy to navigate, and you can choose more than one region if you want to. But I want you to take a look at this and tell me why this filtering action is not as helpful as you would hope. Go ahead and take a guess. Why do you think the filter is, we talked about performance, and it's not impacting performance so much, so that's okay. But why would this filter not be so helpful right now? As far as when you're looking at this, let's look at the question that's here. Is your county obese? Can you tell from this filter if your county's obese? Let me ask it that way. If you can tell which county is most obese, or which region even is most obese, let me know. Yeah. So Sharon's saying, if you have an action on a worksheet and do a different one on the dashboard, will the dashboard action have priority over the worksheet action? So that's a great question, Sharon. Actually, you can only do actions on dashboards. So you can't, you can.
That's not true. You did, there is worksheet actions. I don't know why they're even there. That is something.
I have never utilized them.
Yeah, we don't ever use them, but they're right here. That you do have
How
them.
about that?
But
the main difference is
that's
you're
really-
specifying the priority of the action. So you can set an action. It's actually the same thing, Sharon.
Okay.
A dashboard action on a worksheet is the same thing as on a dashboard. All you're doing is limiting the action's scope to that worksheet when you call it a worksheet action. That's the only
I
difference.
should use one of the, because I've done it just on a worksheet, but then I took the worksheet, brought it into a dashboard, and then another. So that's why I was just wondering.
Yeah.
If one override, but I guess what you're saying is if I'm going to bring that sheet into a dashboard, I should just do the action within the dashboard to a sheet in that dashboard.
Because then it'll be global.
That's great, John.
I mean, I have really, that's why Heather didn't know about it, because we actually never ever use worksheet actions, because there's always more things you want to filter to, right? So I don't want it to be just in that one scope.
Okay.
And really, that's
Sharon,
just a new. Oh, sorry, Heather.
Go ahead, John. Go ahead, John. You go.
No,
ahead.
I was just going to say that's just a new enhancement that Tableau put out, because before, when you created a dashboard action, to what Heather was saying, is actions always took place on dashboards. So they added a new enhancement where you could say this action now only applies to worksheet 1, for example, and that's in the dialog box. You can specify that, but they just added it a few versions ago.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right, John. I do remember that now when you're saying it, but I just don't use it. So Sharon, first of all, thank you for pointing out a feature that I can always be learning from. So I love that. The other thing, though, if you do want to give priority of one dashboard action over another, there is something called a context filter. And when you add something to context, it's saying in relation to this question that I'm asking, in the context of this question that I'm asking, I want you to filter me first and then bring the other actions forward. So that's a great question. But back to this filtering piece. So you can add interactivity to dashboards through filters, through dashboard actions, or through parameters. Those are the main ways that you can add interactivity. The problem with this filter is we cannot tell which of the regions has the highest obesity level at all, because it's a filter. So one thing, filters were slow performance. The other thing is, we always say dashboard, real estate is expensive in dashboards, and that if you're going to use that real estate, let's use it wisely. So if you go to where Chris was creating the original dashboard, Chris, and you start looking at this, now you'll look at the regions, and we can more clearly see in that top left, the South has the most obesity, followed by Midwest, then Northeast, and then West, right? Because now we've taken those options that are in the filter, we've made them into a horizontal bar chart that we can now use dashboard actions. So when we use that real estate, we're now seeing that it's also ranked, right? And so when you do a bar chart, you always are going to filter that, because what we care about most typically in data is the top or the bottom of the data. Unless you're trying to find yourself in it, you might be in the middle, but typically you're looking for the top or bottom. So we always do an ascending or descending sort. And depending on what the question is that we're looking at, typically it's a descending sort. And we look at this can clearly see South has the most obesity. If we're looking at states, Mississippi has the highest. And if it's saying, is your county obese? Well, the counties are down below. We're seeing Holmes, Mississippi has that. We could even add in a filter, which is what Chris is going to do now, where you could type in the name of your county, I think is where you were headed, Chris, if I'm following you there,
Tableau,
where
just
you could search
hit
for
it
your
for me.
own.
That's all. I got to get ahead.
Yeah, so Chris is going to add a filter that would allow you to actually type in your county and find it. If that's the question that you're really trying to answer with this dashboard, I love using a question for a title, but then you got to give people the opportunity to actually answer the question. And so even Tableau, as amazing as they are, and the work that they create, and how they give us some fantastic samples that come out of the box with it, even Tableau can have some makeovers to improve, which is where we love to be able to step in and rethink and revisit, the best way to do this. So that's one of our favorite things to do. So Chris is looking up his county, I think, right now.
Oh, no, I'm not.
Looks
Actually,
like it went to red.
one of the things I always try to do with this, by the way, I should remove this container. You see how that
It was resizing.
tell you why. So see, when I typed in red, it left this one where it was, but it moved that one down. And that's because I had this in a container. So I realized I only have like 5 here. So it expanded that guy for me, which I really didn't want that. So how I get rid of that is I always use floating, because floating I can control better. But if I get rid of that container, then it's going to leave everything in the right spot. It'll just change that bottom one. So that's what I want. So so the only argument I hear for people that want to use filters over actions is that, oh, well, all of my users know what they want to see. They actually know what they're looking for. So, but still, it's good to see where you are in actually context. So even if I might add another sort here that would make this alphabetical. So sometimes we would let them sort things either alphabetically, which would let them find the same way they would in a drop down filter, or we give them this option where they can type in BL, and there's everything that has like BLs in it, or BLU, right? So. But yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris. So appreciate that. And we have another question from Sharon. This is some great conversations around this. So Jessica B., you have started a great dialogue today. So we thank you for that in advance. So Sharon is asking if we could give an example of a context filter that she's never used one before.
Yeah. So let's go into, so I could take anything so literally I could say, okay, when I pass this action in, here, let me do a couple things first. Let me get some more things up here. So I'll do this one. Actually, that's going to highlight. I think I've got. All right. I just want to get a couple things going here. If I go into this sheet, now you're going to see a couple things happening here, right? So I can say, okay, if I want to rank these in order, I can say I want actually county to happen first. So I want to filter county before I do the other things, right? And so all this does for me, if you go back to a browser really quick, is Tableau order of operations. So what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to find one that I like here. I think this one's pretty, that's not good. So all I'm doing here is I am saying, instead of a dimension filter, which is what I have, I'm actually moving it up in the list. So this is the order of operations that things happen. So if I create an extract filter, that's going to filter first before I do anything. Then a data source filters next, and then a context filter. Then you're going to have sets, and then your top N and your fixed LOD. So this is a great one to use if you're trying to get it to happen before like a fixed LOD. That's probably the most way I use it, is putting things up. And it doesn't have to be just filters. It can be actions, because actions are actually filters. Right. So in that example that I did the actual county, but I could have done the action. Right. There's very often that we do that because I have used some level of detail in this view, and I need that action to be applied before that level of detail. And it's probably me being lazy, because I could go and add all those options to the level of detail, but this is way faster. And then also as things change, I would see, oh, I added another sheet. I got a new action that's not in context. I can just move it up. So that's kind of why. Does that help?
I have a quick question on that. So I know, like on the actions and filters, like you can see what you're filtering on. When you do that context, will the end user be able to know that you did that pre-filtering? Will that show anywhere, or you just
No.
they won't?
It's not going to show anywhere.
Okay.
It would, but I think that it just depends on how your calculations are built. And it's
Okay.
really about you doing QA on it to get the right numbers. And sometimes you need a filter to be applied first. Some like times it doesn't matter.
Okay.
Because in all of these, so if they're all the same color,
Mhm.
so if they're all blue, this order doesn't matter. This is all ands. So it's county and this action all happen at the exact same time. So it's not even the order you put them in doesn't matter. The only way to change the order is to move them up in actually this list here.
Okay.
And you know, a great use case, Sharon, where I see context filters first being utilized by our customers and our students and things, is oftentimes when you're doing a top 10 filter or something, or a top N filter of some sort, where you'll say, I want to know the top 10 products in each category. And so you have to bring the category in first to get the top 10. You want that category, and then you bring in the other filters of top 10. So you bring category onto context, then a top 10 by sales. Otherwise, you'll get the top 10 overall, but you won't get the top 10 for each category. So that's often a time when I see context filters used most often.
Heather, I have that
Great
exact
example.
sample set up.
Oh, great. Do you want to show that, John?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, sure.
Okay.
I realized
Chris-
that my help file went actually away. So I had to fix that because I was actually filtering to the help icon. So that's the only thing
gotcha.
with having a sheet is because every time you add a new sheet to a dashboard, it's going to probably add to your actions. So you got to go and take it off, especially if it's one you don't want it to filter to. So.
And by taking it off, Chris means unchecking it. When you go to edit
Unchecking.
filters,
Correct.
you want to uncheck that. So John, let's go ahead and take a look at yours. I know I just want to put this out. I know we have a few people on the call that have not submitted questions. So if you have any questions that you'd like answered today, please submit that into the chat. Otherwise, we're going to keep on going down the path of some tips and tricks on actions and on context filters. So ways to add interactivity to dashboards. So John, I'm going to hand this over to you to kind of talk through that context filter example that we were just talking about with the top 10.
So here's a perfect example. This is actually the one that we use when we teach the classes. So you can see here that all we're looking at are sales broken down by category and product name, right? If I pull category out just to confirm, you can see that I've got a top 10 filter that's going on right here. If I edit this so you can see it, it's actually top 10 product names based on sales, right? And just so that we're clear as well, I'm going to pull this off for a second. There's actually 3,700 different products in here, right? So if I put my top 10 filter back in, it shows me the top 10 products overall. If I put category back in, what it's showing me are the 3 products that were a part of the furniture category and the 7 products that were a part of the technology category, because these are the top 10 overall. But what Heather was suggesting was we might be interested in what are the top 10 products in furniture, what are the top 10 products in technology, and there's a third category called office supplies, which we cannot see. And the reason is none of the products in office supplies category showed up in the top 10. So what we can do is we can create a context filter that's going to apply here. Now, someone might think, well, the reason it's doing that is because the product name filter is based, the top 10 filter is based on product name. So if I were to go and show, let me just show this filter control here, and I'm going to adjust this so you can see that I'm only looking at one category at a time. If I look at all of the categories, these are the only 10. If I look at furniture, it's again only those 3. If I look at technology, it's only those 7. If I look at office supplies, it's none, right? And the reason is, again, because the product name filter is happening first and the category is happening after. And that goes back to what Chris had shown us earlier, which is this hierarchy. So what's happening right now is this top 10 filter is happening for the product names, and then the category filter is happening secondarily. What I need is the opposite. I need the category filter to happen first, and then the top 10 filter, right? So how we're going to do that is we're going to take our category filter, which is a dimensional filter, and we're going to promote it to a context filter, which means this is going to happen first, and then this top 10 filter is going to happen second, right? So let me get this out of the way. How are we going to do that?
Sorry.
We go, thanks, Chris. We go in and we're just
Chad,
going
for
to,
the office supplies, that was
we're
a sad
gonna,
face.
yes. In fact, let me put this back to all. So we're looking at everything first. And all I'm going to do is right click on this category filter, and I'm going to add it to context. So it's going to move it up. You notice not only did it change it gray so that there's a physical, a visual difference so I can see it, but it also promoted it in the order of filters so that I know that that's happening first. And now if I go to my filter control, if I click on furniture, you notice I'm looking at 10 bars for the furniture category, 10 bars for the technology category, and 10 bars for the office supplies category.
Voila.
Great.
It's
And
like
there it is.
magic,
Thank
John.
you. That explains it very well. Thank you.
That was
Welcome.
way better than what I had.
You're building on the fly, Chris. This is
Well,
why we have the whole team.
Yeah, and I didn't have time to fully blow out this data set, but I had a theory that the more Chick-fil-A's that exist by state kind of correlated to the actual obesity, and it doesn't seem to be the case. But I don't know. I mean, the only one really we got like Alabama has like 91. I mean, that could be a problem, you know. So I don't know. I'm just saying. So.
And let's just say Chris is a big Chick-fil-A fan, by the way, as well. And his children have been employed there before. So no, you know, but Chris did have a theory. We started using a web scraper last night, webscraper.io, if any of you are looking for ways to scrape websites. But we didn't quite get the full data set out. It was kept crashing last night, but that was super fun to be looking at that. So if you have theories, the way you prove them is by looking at your data and seeing what your data shows. So I would have hoped that it would have shown Mississippi, since that's what this data has as well. But I know Texas was showing up theirs too. So I am seeing another question coming in. This is great. Let me find my questions. There we go. I saw it pop up. I'm getting a question from Jasmine M. She's saying, my org is planning from moving from Google Drive to Office OneDrive. Is there someone from Boulder Insight with knowledge on how to best transfer these dashboards over? So moving from Google Drive to Office OneDrive. First of all, we're a big Google fan house, so my apologies to you for the Office OneDrive. No offense to Office OneDrive. I
think maybe the biggest issue you're going to use actually Teams now.
We're a Zoom fan, but you know, we have space for everybody. We work with clients in all the platforms. But Chris, do you have do we have knowledge around that?
I can talk to that. So when you say you're moving over to OneDrive, are your data sources in like Excel?
Yes, all of our data sources are in Excel sitting within our Google Drive currently. So when we have even rearranged some of our folders to make our Google Drive make sense, some of the dashboards have disconnected from the data sources, which most of the time is fine. We can just go back in and reconnect, but some of our dashboards have broken, and we have to kind of go back in and fix those.
Yeah. So one, I would tell you, I'll try to find an article really quick. I mean, having your database be Excel to me is really, really dangerous, because you know, that's not the right way to house your data. I mean, so tell me more. I mean, well, first let me answer your question. Yes, I'm sure there's a way to easily transfer those over. How we would do it is probably writing a script that would change the path right? So instead of going to Google Drive inside of the XML, so for every single Tableau workbook you have, there's XML behind it, and so it's actually feasible. We could write a script to download the XML and then change the data connection to say, here was the old one, here's the new ones. As long as we have a mapping of that, then we could actually publish all those dashboards with the new links. That's actually one way to do it. The other way I would tell you is, here, let me ask this question. For your Tableau server, is this an on-prem Tableau server, or are you using the cloud?
I'm not too sure. So I work at an education nonprofit, and we sit under our parent company called Strive Together. So we do have Tableau server through them, but I'm not too sure which one it is. But most of our dashboards, they are public Texas Education Agency data. So I just use like Tableau Public.
Okay, got it. Okay, so it's not data that's going to be actually going to be refreshed often, probably. Is that true?
So most of our dashboards are once yearly, but we're trying to move to having more regularly updated dashboards, and also some of our newer dashboards have more sensitive data like student IDs, addresses, and stuff. So we do have to move towards a more secure data infrastructure.
Okay. Yeah, one, I can definitely help you with that. There's a lot of nuances when it comes down to picking the right product, or I guess the right license structure. And not to say all Tableau reps are this way, but a lot of times they will sell you a lot more than you need. If you'd like a consult on that, I can definitely help you to actually save you money, because you don't necessarily need to build the church for Easter Sunday service, which is what they'll actually have you do. As far as transferring over to OneDrive, I don't think it's a big deal. I mean, is it the number of dashboards you have is just a lot? I mean,
yeah, maybe like around like 10 that we are keeping up with. Yeah.
Okay, well then, if it's only 10, I mean, I wouldn't even script. I would just do it manually.
Okay.
Just connect to the new one and go from there.
Mhm.
If you are gonna move to an on-prem server, which just depending on the kind of the security that you need, I would recommend publishing the data source to Tableau server. That way you can have multiple dashboards hit that one version. So that way you don't have to worry about, every single dashboard having to be changed whenever you want to do an update.
Yeah.
You can just publish it to the server, but I don't think you can do that with a public though.
I don't think you can with public. Yeah. Yeah. Great question, Jasmine. And then Tom had some additional questions just about that I answered in the chat, just for those of you that may not have seen it, asking if you have 3 fields in your filter area, does it matter which one is first without a context filter? And the answer is it depends on the field type. And I put in the one of the charts that Chris and John were showing for the order of operations for filters. If they're all dimensions and it's not an LOD expression, then fixed LOD would be the only type of LOD that could be a dimension. But if it's they would all just filter at the same time. Chris had mentioned it's an and clause with those, not an order of operations. So all right, well, let me hop back into our PowerPoint. I don't think we're going to have a whole lot of time to go deep into adding actions to your dashboard. Oh gosh, there it is again. So sorry, guys. So many options.
Multiple monitors now. So
Yeah.
now she's feeling my pain when they renumber the monitors.
How are we doing now? Are we seeing adding actions to your dashboard?
We are now, yeah.
We are now. Okay. Yeah, I have 3 monitors right now in our Charlotte office rather than our Boulder office, and I'm struggling with the third the third one I'm used to too. So thanks for your patience, everybody. But there are different types of actions. We can come back and revisit this. We'll put this as well into the chat for you all. But when you're adding actions to dashboard, I talked about what each of the action options are and some of the behaviors around it. And so one of the things to keep in mind is if you're using a filtering action, you want to use select, never hover when people are doing that, because it's going to filter things when they just move their mouse and make people crazy. If you're ever leaving the dashboard that you're on to go to additional data, that you might be going to a worksheet or going to a URL or diving deeper into using a filtering action on menu, you'll want to use menu if you're leaving the dashboard. So it gives people an option. It shows up with a hyperlink essentially that it looks like that you'll click on anytime you're leaving the dashboard to be able to do that. So we won't go too deep into that just for time. Just want to make sure any other questions were not answered in this. Please submit them in the chat and we'll try to get back to you with those. And we just want to let you know we are here to support you all. So one of our core missions at Boulder Insight is to empower you all. We want to take you from zero to hero. So you are able to really, whether you're a beginner or you're an advanced user, that you're aiming for mastery and we've got you covered. Like we've got your back. We want to help you with that. So you can always go to the Boulder Insight website and to training and see the listing of the courses that we offer that are custom courses based on how we go about creating our trainings as consultants. We also teach all of the Tableau desktop training courses and the Tableau prep course. So you can always reach out to us as well, and we can teach the Tableau curricula to you, and you can stay connected with us. So you can follow us on all our socials at Boulder Insight. And we just want to thank you for attending with us and being here to Tableau Live. This is something we do every month. It's the second Wednesday of the month, same time, same place. And you can just follow us on social to get that. You can email us. We can make sure you're added to our mailing list if you're watching this and you haven't actually registered to attend. This is free. It's all about you, that it's real people, real problems in real time. So we so loved having you all. Thank you so much to each of you for submitting questions in advance and being such an engaged audience. It really makes our time go so quickly when we're here with you. So I wish you all the best. Happy Wednesday and happy October. We'll see you in November. Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Take care.
Thanks, bye.